Okay, we're going to finish the second part of the class that we gave 2 weeks ago. Last week we were snowed out, even though it didn't snow. We'll say we're snowed out. And so the week before that we started a class about the translation of the Torah into Greek. We're not going to go back. We just on one leg, a few points, we saw that this was a fast day. The 8th of Tevet was a fast day for the translation. The 72 scholars that translated the Torah in the same exact words. There were 13 changes. They all changed it in the same way. 3 days of darkness came into the world. According to another opinion, it was as severe as the sin of the golden calf. It wasn't a very happy day. It wasn't a very successful day. On the 9th, we have the birth of JC. And on the 10th day, we have the public fast. That is, of course, the beginning of the Babylonians who surrounded Jerusalem for almost 3 years. Last thing we said before we took a break for 2 weeks was that we see something very interesting. That even though the Greeks were very interested at the beginning, the Greeks looked at themselves as equals to the Jewish people. Not better and not worse. They looked at themselves as equal. As we brought in a lot of different cases from the time of Noah, his sons Shem and Yefet. Yefet, of course, is the father of Greece. We see that both of them, both Shem, Jewish people come from Shem. Yefet, the Greek people, come from Yefet. They both covered their father up after the third son, Ham. He did a terrible act against his father, a sexual act against his father, and these two covered him up. We went on a few other different cases. We see that there was a desire for the Greeks to be on the same level as the Jewish people. They didn't want one-upmanship on them. If we remember, for example, in 2 weeks ago, we see that Joseph, he had a hey, the letter hey added to his name. We will say tomorrow in the Psalm of the day, which is Thursday, we say Yehosef. It's Yosef, but they added a hey. Why did they add a hey to his name? Because he sanctified God's name. He sanctified God's name in private by the fact that he did not, even though the wife of Potiphar, she many times tried to induce Yosef, not once and not twice, but many times, as we mentioned before, he was able to stand up. Now, who knew about this? Only those two. So Hashem said, because Joseph sanctified God's name in privacy, therefore we added a name. We added a letter to his name. He became Yehosef instead of Yosef. This comes into play where Yosef knew one extra language that Paro didn't know. And Paro, there was a law in Egypt that if somebody knew something that the king did not know, he would be transferred from his job. So Paro knew that Yosef understood one more language than he did. And therefore, he made him give an oath that Yosef would never tell anybody this fact that Yosef knows one more language than Paro knew. And therefore, if we remember 2 weeks ago in the portion of the week, Paro gives permission to Yosef to bury Jacob, his father, in Eretz Yisrael, only because of the fact that Yaakov had sworn Yosef into bringing his body up to Eretz Yisrael. So Paro knew that because of the fact that Jacob had sworn in Joseph, therefore he had no choice. And just like the fact that he understood the importance of an oath, and he did not want Yosef to reveal his secret, that he doesn't know one language that Yosef knows. So therefore he gave permission to Yosef, who Jacob asked him to give a vow that he would take his body up to Eretz Yisrael. So therefore it worked out okay. So we see that the Gentiles, they have something against this one-upmanship. It really bothers them. The chosen people concept, it really bothers them. So they wanted to be on the level where they too have the Torah. In fact, it says in the end of days, when the Mashiach comes, he's going to say, okay, I've come to give reward to those people that observe the Torah. Please come. And all of a sudden, the Mashiach looks, and wow, all these Gentiles are coming and saying, wow, we're the ones. Okay? We're the ones. And the Mashiach looks, and they don't look too familiar to them. And then Mashiach says something that those that have the oral law, those are the true Jewish people. Because as we know, the written law was translated here on the 8th of Tevet. It was translated into Greek. And also, of course, there's different opinions what exactly, before when the Jewish people came into the land of Israel with Joshua, their first stop was in Shechem, Elon Moreh Shechem. They went up to Har Gerizim and Har Eval. Har Eval, they once again gave over the Torah, and the Torah was given once again in 70 languages. What exactly did it say? We'll leave it for a separate session. What exactly did the session say? But you could know one thing for certain, that it was definitely not the oral law, because that's a covenant that's only between the Jewish people and the people of Israel. So therefore, there's a lot of people that feel that they are Israel. They are the real Israel we hear about today. There's all kinds of Christians that are blowing shofars, and they're really blowing it, catch the drift.
The Christian, they call themselves Israel Veritas.
Right.
That's their...
Okay, right. So anyways, they're the replacement theory. We could go on for this for a while, but there's a lot of people, as you can understand, that already are waiting in line to receive their reward because they are the people of Israel. They are the real Israelites. Okay, anyways, we said that on the 8th, we have a fast day because of the fact that the Torah was translated into Greek. On the 9th, we have because JC was born. And on the 10th, we said the Babylonians surrounded Jerusalem. If we see, there is a downhill process here, a very dangerous process. On the 8th, the Greeks were interested in being on the same level. On the 9th, we have the replacement theory. We're starting time from now. What happened, what was, we just deleted it. We're not interested in what was. Because now when we start the calendar, the Gregorian calendar, what we're interested is in Mr. JC. We're interested in starting 0. Okay, so now if we say 2015, you know what we're talking about. 2015, we're going back to Mr. JC. It starts from the beginning. Its time now starts, and he's the beginning. So now there's no more Jewish people because he's the people of Israel. He is the replacement. Okay? There is no more Torah. There is the New Testament. What was is deleted. Now it starts from the beginning. We start from me. So therefore, we're one step worse here. Now it's not like the Greeks that wanted to be equal. Now they are above us. And then the last step is to become subservient, to be destroyed. That was the third step. Throughout history, throughout the last 2,000 years, we've seen what the Babylonians started on the 10th. we see the fact that not only do they claim that that history starts from them and we do not exist, but also they went a great deal. They went a great deal to go to prove that point, and throughout the years kill billions of Jewish people throughout the ages. So we go from equality. When you translate the Torah, you have the danger of people thinking they're equal to you, and then you have the danger of people thinking that they are the Jewish people, they're the replacement, and not you. And then, of course, you're being tortured for all those facts above. That's the way the ball bounces. Okay, that was pretty much the first class. Okay, we're going to see we're going to touch on some unbelievable issues. And once again, these issues, of course, have a lot of meaning in our times. We're first going on Sfat Emet, the Admor, from the Rebbe of Gur. He writes in his works on Hanukkah, page 210, he asks a good question. We see at the time of Hanukkah a new concept. It says that the Greeks, they wanted lashkiach Toratecha. They wanted the Jewish people to forget the Torah. We don't see the Egyptians that their plan was to have the Jews forget the Torah. Okay? We don't see Haman. He was interested in the Jews forgetting the Torah or not. He just wanted to destroy the Jewish people. There was a fight. He wanted to destroy them. Here we see an interesting thing. For the first time, we see somebody's coming out here, and the Greeks are coming. They want us to forget the Torah. Now, how could that be? How could they possibly want us to forget the Torah? What's their connection to the Torah? So here's what the Sfat Emet writes. רק על ידי שיש ליוונים קצת אחיזה בתורה, שהרי כתבו את התורה, שנאמר יפת אלוקים ליפת. It says in the Torah, there's already in the portion of the week of Noach, we see already that Hashem says there's a beauty to the Greeks if it's in the tent of the Jewish people. If there's a beauty to the people of Greece. That beauty is true as long as it's kept within the tent of Shem, which is, of course, the Jewish people. So once again, we see that there is a tremendous connection between beauty, the Jewish people. We talked about it last week, Yavan. The letters Yavan comes out to the word Noi, which is beauty. The Jewish people have a mitzvah, Ze Eli Vanvehu. Every mitzvah you do it in the most beautiful way. If you're deciding where you can make a Shabbaton, do you make a Shabbaton in Tapuach? You know what I'm saying? At this garage where there's only one bathroom and one sink, or do you go all the way to Migdal HaEmek? So Hashem tells us, Ze'eli Vanveo. You have to do things in a nice way. You go to Migdal HaEmek. So the Jewish people say, we have beauty and you have beauty. What's the difference? The difference is we use the beauty for a synagogue. We use beauty for the temple. That's what we use beauty for. We use beauty for when we get married, the beauty is kept within closed doors, not outside for people to see. When a person gets married, they cover their hair. They don't reveal their hair. They don't reveal their bodies. Why? Because once you get married, the beauty of a marriage is kept inside. So we see here that Hashem says there's a place for the beauty of the nations of Greece, but it's only when it's kept within the tent of the Jewish people. So he goes on. ומזה היה שייכות להם שהיו רוצים להשכיח תורתך כי אם היו רוצים להכניע תחת ידם בני ישראל Haya lahem chelek b'kedusha. Listen to what he's saying, unbelievable Torah. The Sfat Emet says, if the Greek people were willing to subserve themselves to the Jewish people, if they were willing to put their heads down, they have a place within holiness. They have a place for them for holiness, as long as they know that they're second up to the Jewish people. As long as they subserve themselves to the Jewish people, then there is a place for them within the Torah, within holiness. Unbelievable. Why is this? As long as they would have put their heads down, they would have had a place. Okay, they would have been able to help us for our mission, the mission of the Jewish people, if they would have been able to put themselves in second place. And therefore, we're seeing here that even though the Torah was translated, the Torah is only shayach for the Jewish people. Only for the Jewish people. And why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu translate it if it's only for them? To give those few that are interested in becoming converts, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them an opportunity. Don't say that you didn't have a chance. Don't say you didn't understand the language. You understood the language. Because I translated into the language that's mostly used, which is Greek. So therefore, plus it was translated, as we said, when the Jewish people came into the land of Israel with Joshua, some 3,300 years ago. It was also translated to 70 languages. So they know that the Torah exists. They know what it's talking about. Hashem gave them opportunity. If they are willing to put themselves, to be subservient to the Jewish people, there is a place for them within holiness and even within the Jewish people if they want to convert. Next. ואפשר שזה הרמז נר חנוכה בשמאל. Very interesting. We have, when you want to put up your menorah, where do you put it up? If you're looking at your house, you have on the right side, you have the mezuzah. And on the left side, that's where you put the menorah. You put the candles. That's very unusual. Why? Because we know that when a person does a mitzvah, every mitzvah is done with the right hand. Every mitzvah is done the right hand. That's why the mezuzah is on the right side. When a person is shaking the lulav in the etrog, shake, 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 yeah, shake your lulav. So when you shake your lulav, you have the lulav in the right hand. Why? Because there's 3 commandments, there's 3 mitzvot in the lulav. There's the lulav and the hadassim and the aravot, and in the left hand you only have 1 mitzvah. So therefore, we do mitzvot with the right. So why? So why do we put the candles on the left? Because this is an unbelievable Torah. The Sfat Emet is saying an unbelievable thing. We know that the Torah can bring 2 results. One is life and one is death. If Torah is used in the proper manner, it brings life. It brings light and life into the world. But if Torah is used in improper manner, then it brings death to those that learn the Torah in that manner and teach the Torah in that manner. You could go today in Los Angeles, they have the Kabbalah Center. Wow, man, this is really something, that Kabbalah Center. Man, they're really up there over there. Come on down from the Kabbalah Center. Yeah. You know, they don't know an A from a B, an Aleph from a Bet, but they're in the Kabbalah Center in Los Angeles with Madonna. Very interesting. So friends, it's an unbelievable concept. The Torah, as we know, it says straight out, Shlomo Melech tells us, those that use the Torah, that go right, they have life. Those that use the Torah towards the left, that's in the wrong way. Torah for them is death. Torah for them is death. So therefore, we put the menorah on the left side to show that the Greeks, instead of subserving themselves to the Jewish people and doing what they should have done, they didn't do that. Now they're using the Torah that they know in order to erase the Torah from the Jewish people. They're using our weapon against us. We gave them the weapons and they're turning it on us. So therefore you put that menorah on the left side because their Torah is the Torah of death. So left represents death, which is interesting with the elections coming up. Right and left, the Torah to the right is life. Torah to the left has always been death. Unfortunately now today we have also on the right, Torah is becoming a little bit of death. But that's for a different discussion. Okay, so that's an unbelievable thing. The Torah becomes translated. We should think that's a great thing. Now people have a chance to know the Torah, to learn Torah, to become better people, right? Wrong. Most of the time it backfires. And therefore, Kodesh Baruch Hu gave an opportunity for the nations of the world to see what the Torah looks like in order that they should never say, well, if we only heard about it, we would have converted or we would have become Noahites. So they could never say that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did a very, very dangerous thing. He gave the Torah in 70 languages. And therefore, if you notice, throughout all ages, the Gentiles and Jewish apostates use the Torah against the Torah. Take an example what I'm talking about. If you notice, all the wicked, they always know a verse. For example, we'll take the wicked of Israel. There was some members of Knesset that once quoted a verse in the prophets that talked about the love between David HaMelech, King David, and Yonatan. And what do they turn it in? Because they knew that verse, what do they do with that verse? You can imagine. Think about it. The love the Torah tells us their love was greater than the love of women. So what do they tell us? They show us here that there's a source from the Torah for this kind of behavior. God forbid. Look at Haman. Right? It was time where Haman it was time for Haman to put Mordechai on the horse and lead him around Persia, claiming this is what should be done to a person that has helped the king, like Mordechai had helped. He saved his life. So it's not easy getting up on a horse. And don't forget, Mordechai had been fasting for 3 days. So man, he doesn't have any strength to get up on a horse. It's not like Avram, it's not like getting up on a goat or, that you could do. But to get up on a horse, it's a hard feat. So Mordechai is a great idea. He tells Paro, listen, bend over like a step and I'll jump on top of you and go into the suit. I'll go onto the horse. So Paro bends down. Mordechai gives him a kick right in the stomach. I mean, I don't know if you guys are wrestling fans, but this is something right out of the wrestling. Remember the wrestling? Boy, that was great. Those were the days, the wrestling days. Oh. But anyways, so Mordechai is laughing. Haman calls a timeout and says, once again, what does he say? I don't understand. Doesn't it say in your Torah that when the evil fall down, you're not allowed to rejoice? How did he know that? Avram, you're sitting here, you should be flying out the window. Unbelievable.
You learn in Machameh.
How did he know? All these wicked people, they always knew a verse or two of the Torah. And they use it, as we said just now, by the Sfat Emet, the Ger Rebbe, they use it in order for the Jewish people to forget the Torah. They come up with quotes from the Torah that mean exactly the opposite. And they use the Torah in order to destroy the Torah. We know here how we're talking about when something is done against the Arab enemies, then we always hear how the Torah cares so much about the stranger, and this behavior is against the Torah because here we have the strangers, these Arab enemies are strangers, and we must love them. And the beat goes on. Okay. The Sfat Emet goes up on the next page, 211, and here's what he has to say. He says on Hanukkah, what's the issue of Hanukkah? The issue of Hanukkah is that we're happy because the wicked fell. We're happy at the downfall of the wicked. Because the Greeks are called people that wanted to make darkness in the eyes of Israel. They darkened the eyes of Israel. What does that mean? He says very simply, why are they called darkness? Darkness is to make a mistake. If I'm in my house and I want to dial the phone and it's dark, I'll make a mistake how I'm dialing because it's dark. They use the Torah. The Ger Rebbe says their whole idea, their whole use of the Torah was in order to stop the Jewish people from learning Torah and doing mitzvot. They wanted us to forget the Torah. And how were they able to be successful more so than other nations? We know, look, the major fight during the Hanukkah period was not against the Greeks. It was against those Hellenists, those Jewish Hellenists. And in fact, somebody sent me this email, very interesting, about events in the last 750 years in France. Most of the events where the French, where they burnt Jewish books or the Talmud and the Rambam and they killed Jews, most of them were led by Jewish apostates. Because if you think about it, Arya, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. We know in life that the person that could harm oneself the most, a person that could harm us the most is who? Is of course ourselves. We are our worst enemies. Look at what we eat. Look at what we put in our mouths. Look at what we breathe. Look at the water that we drink. We are our worst enemies. And on the same level, that's on a private note. We can do the most damage to ourselves more than anybody else. More than anybody else. We do the most damage. Also on a public level, who does the most damage to the Jewish people? The same concept. The Jewish people can do the greatest harm more than anybody else. The Jewish people do the greatest harm to ourselves, to the Jewish people. So how was it that the people that were most successful in removing the Jewish people from the soul of the Jewish people, from the body of the Jewish people, how was it that it was the Greeks? Why? And listen to what he says. Al yedei sheitparesh at-Torah livanit. Because of the fact that they had a hold, they had a finger, they had the Torah in their hands. It was translated to them. And therefore, they were able to use verses against the Torah from the Torah. Now, if you look at it, when the Christians come to you, what verses are they flying at you? They're using verses from the Jewish prophets. Unbelievable. They're using verses from the Torah to destroy the Torah, to believe in JC. It all comes from that day of darkness, the day that is likened to the sin of the golden calf, the sin of the golden calf that the Jewish people, we are paying for till this very moment. Every single punishment, the Torah says, every single punishment that comes to the Jewish people, there is still an amount, a percentage that is still because of the fact that the Jewish people sinned over 3,300 years ago with the golden calf. We are still being punished till this very day. And this is more serious, as we see, because now they're waving the flag of the Torah. They are destroying the Torah with the flag of the Torah. God forbid. And he goes on. Shaya kavanat Hashem v'kavanat Noach sheitbatlu libnei Yisrael v'lachen amar yefet Elokim liyefet be'olei Shem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Noach gave a blessing that as long as the Greeks would stay within the realms, they would take a backseat to the Jewish people. As long as they did that, and as long as they put the Jewish people on the pedestal, that they could be used. They would be connected to spirituality. But they didn't do that. They wanted to be in charge. They were now the chosen people. They were the real chosen people, not Israel, not the Jewish people. Not only that, they went to the temple. And what did they do there? They made 13. They destroyed. There's a place where it says up till here, Gentiles are allowed to go. And at that place, they destroyed 13 different items at that sign where it says from here on, no Gentile is allowed to go. That's what bothered them. That sign bothered them. And if you look at the number 13, they destroyed 13 places. 13 equals 1. Because Echad, Aleph, Chet, Dalet is the numerical value of 13. God. It was a fight against God. Okay. Now. What?
No.
God is 26.
No,
God?
Gimel Vadalet.
Yafeh. Okay. Now, if you want to look on, because our time is limited, the Sfat Emet does not leave go of this point. He talks about, very interesting, there we talked about the similarities, beauty. The Greeks have beauty. If you look in the world today, beautiful homes, people that work out, they look pretty. People dress nicely. It all comes from the beauty from the time that they were blessed. They were blessed with beauty. But the Jewish people also have beauty. We use our beauty for internal aspects, not external. With the Gentiles, everything is outside. When they're in front of a camera, they're smiling. But when you get to know them, on the inside, they're terrible people. The Jewish people, many times you look at a person on the outside, he looks like, oh my God, I don't want to get close to this guy. Look at this guy, his pants are torn, his shirt is torn. He looks like a simple person. He's not so pretty, he's not so beautiful. But we know that beauty is on the inside. Beauty shines on the inside. And therefore we show our beauty within the synagogue. Our beauty is used within the synagogue to make a beautiful place, just like Kol HaKavod, whoever turned this synagogue into a beautiful place, they have a lot of merit. They have a lot of merit in this world, the world to come. They did a beautiful thing. Now this place looks respectable. Turn this whole place around like it should be. Okay, so he goes into it. The second point that he brings out, very interesting, is that there are two nations that have, we'll call it chutzpah. The best word, also in English it's used, so we'll just call it chutzpah. Chutzpah, as the say. We know, Chazal tell us, our rabbis tell us, every time you see in the Torah the word ez, which is a goat, who's that talking about? That's talking about Greece. Every time you see in the Torah it talks about a sheep, that's talking about the Jewish people. Once again, Ez is Greece. Not only it's also the nations of the world, but more specifically, it's the nation of Greece. And if you take the word Ez, it also comes to azut. It's kind of brazenness. It's kind of brazenness. What's brazenness? You're standing in line at a bank, and you all of a sudden you're a good Jew, and you want to take advantage of the time, so you start learning something. So you're learning there, and about 5 minutes later you lift up your head, and all of a sudden, now instead of being second in line, now you're 22nd in line. And you're thinking, what, my God, how did that happen? Why? Because in this country, there's a lot of brazen people. There's a lot of chutzpah here in this country. Somebody told me, when they go to the States and they drive there, they just cannot believe it. No one's honking. Ever been in a situation, there's 100 cars in front of you and some guy is honking in back and he won't stop. But there's 100 guys in front of you. What do you want from me? Why in the world? By your honking, are you moving something here? What is going on here? So it's an unbelievable concept if you think about it. There's two choices a Jew has. There's azut kedusha, there's brazenness of holiness, and there's brazenness of secular life. So two nations were blessed. Nations were blessed with this strength, with this brazenness. Depends what it's used for. If it's used on every day to friends, to family, to people on the street, it's a very, very bad trait. It says, azut panim legehinom. People that have a brazen face, you're supposed to have a face that smiles. When somebody sees you, they should see, oh, here's a guy that's smiling. I feel better just by looking at this guy. That should be. We know in the Holocaust, there were great people that practiced. They strengthened their smiling muscles for months and months and months. They just smiled all day to strengthen the muscles. Why? It's bad enough that I'm suffering, but why should another person suffer when he sees me? We know that we know that Jacob, he did not live the life of his father, Yitzchak. Yitzchak lived 180 years. Jacob only lived for 147 years. So we're missing there 33 years. Now, it says in Chazal, the rabbis tell us that because Jacob answered, Paro said, what's happening, how you feeling, how you doing? And Jacob says, well, I've had a terrible life. So because Jacob said, I had a terrible life, for every single word that Jacob said, 1 year was taken off of his life. But there's only one problem with this Chazal. Because if you count the letters of the words, you don't get up to 33. In order to get up to 33 years, you have to ask Paro's, you have to include Paro's question to Jacob, how are you doing? If you include Paro's question to Jacob, how are you doing, Mr. Jacob? Then you come up to 33. So the Balei Musar have an unbelievable punch over here. This is an unbelievable Torah. They say the following. Why did Paro say, how you doing? Because when Paro looked at Jacob, he couldn't believe. He looked to him like so bad. He looked to him like so old, so upset and so eaten up on the inside. So the fact that Paro asked a question, Jacob is responsible for. Because if Jacob looked differently, if he held himself in a different kind of light, then Paro would have never asked the question. So because of the fact that he asked the question, he was punished because of the fact that that's the light that he gave off. That's the aura that Jacob gave off. I'm surprised you're still in your seats over here. So, folks, two nations were blessed. Two nations were blessed with brazenness, with chutzpah. There's a good chutzpah, there's a good brazenness when it's used for holy matters, when it's used for good things. But in the most of the times, it's not a good characteristic trait at all. It's a terrible one. And those two nations are the Jewish people and the Greeks. Those two. And that's why it says, every time it says in the Torah, it uses the word goat, ez, which is the same word as azut, brazenness, the same word. So therefore, we're talking about the Greeks. Now, look at this, unbelievable. The Egyptians took on the Jewish people when they did not have a temple. They did not have a temple. The Greeks, not only did they take on the Jewish people when they had the temple, but they came inside the temple to do battle against the Jewish people. That's brazenness. You come in the palace of the king's palace, you come in their house to fight against them? Whoa, you got to have a lot of chutzpah to do that. That's what they did. They came in and they destroyed everything. They destroyed various the altars, etc. Destroyed the whole temple. You come in the king's palace. You're not afraid. That's the brazenness. And therefore, they had more chutzpah than anybody else. That they came and they used the Torah that was translated for them, for their benefit, instead of using it in the proper way, to make themselves second class to the Jewish people and to help the Jewish people. Therefore, they used it in a bad way in order to erase Torah from the Jewish people. The last point I want to talk about is the following. As we said, there were 13 changes. There were 13 changes that the tractate in Megillah, the 9th page, says. One of the verses that was changed, listen closely, one of the verses that were changed was the following. It says by Shimon and Levi, it says, Birtzonam akru shor, ubeapam ki beapam hargu ish. The real Torah says that Shimon and Levi, they wanted to uproot the ox. And it also says they also killed people out of anger. But all the 72 scholars changed that verse around. What did they write? Listen to what they changed it to. They changed it to Birtzonam akru avus. In the Shimon and Levi, what they desired was to uproot where donkeys are fed. It's called an avus. That's where they get their food from. So they eliminated the word ox. Number 2, it says ki be'apam hargu ish, but they changed it to hargu shor. They killed a ox. So what's the deal here? What's the deal here? It says, the commentators say the following. Number 1, the Chachamim wanted to make it clear that even though Yaakov was against what Shimon and Levi did, they wanted to make it clear that it was not considered to be murder, because they changed the verse, Ki be'apam hargu lo ish ela shor. They killed an animal. In the eyes of Yaakov, all the people in Shechem, the 24,000 people that were killed in Shechem, were likened to animals, because that's the kind of behavior that they were participating in. So that's the first word that's changed, not for them to ever think that because Yaakov was opposed to what they did, he thought it was murder. He didn't think it was murder. He looked at it as if they had killed animals. That's number 1. Number 2, they wanted to uproot the ox. They changed that to become they wanted to uproot where the donkey eats from. that plate or whatever it's called that they eat from. Why was this changed? Because Chazal tell us that the mazal, the spiritual place where the Greeks are, their spiritual sign, I guess called zodiac sign, is the ox. So they were afraid, the 72 chachamim, wise men, they were afraid that the Gentiles would think that the Shimon and Levi were interested in uprooting who? The Greeks. Because the Greeks' zodiac sign, their zodiac sign is the ox. So they had to change it around, and they used the word, the feeding place of the donkey. Now, very interesting here. What does this have to do? Okay, they're worried, the 72 Chachamim were worried about this connection between Shimon and Levi and the Greek people. Why is that? So check this out, very interesting. The Rav Levi Yitzchak Bardishev says the following unbelievable Torah. He says, he writes in his commentary on the Torah, on the portion is Vayigash, it's on page 100, an unbelievable Torah that he writes. He writes here that where is the source of the holiday of Hanukkah? Where's the source of it? Okay, it has to have a source. As we said a couple of weeks ago, month ago, we talked about that every holiday, rabbinical holiday, has a source from the Torah, a Torah holiday. So where's the source? We talked about Sukkot, but where's, in the verses of the Torah, where's the source that we merited having Hanukkah? Listen to this, unbelievable. Ma ken kimochen Shimon velevi barigatam et Shechem ramzu geulat Hanukkah. It's very similar. What Shimon and Levi did when they killed the people, the 24,000 people of Shechem. This is the Torah's way to give us a hint that this is the source. This is the Torah source of the whole holiday of Hanukkah. Shimon and Levi, what they did, what we're celebrating for thousands of years, what those reform rabbis, conservative rabbis, it all stems from who? Unbelievable. Shimon and Levi. Okay. דכמו דגבי שכם היה קצת על ידי מלחמה של שמעון ולוי וישועת השם עזר להם, just like with the times of Shimon and Levi in Shechem, they fought a little bit and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu came in and saved everybody. Also in Hanukkah, who's fighting here? The descendants of Shimon and Levi, Chashmonaim, they're from the same family. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes and then Hu moser giborim biyad chalashim. Then he takes the strong people and the strong Greeks, and he gives us the victory. Which is not so on Purim. The Jewish people did not do anything. The Jewish people fasted. They were very passive. In Hanukkah, it's totally different. The Jewish people were very on the offense here.
They killed very many in Shushan.
That's afterwards. Afterwards, they've got permission from the king, something else. But they didn't do anything, they fasted. They didn't do anything to save themselves. Okay. So he brings here that the whole source, this whole source is who's fighting the battles of Hanukkah. Of course, the children of Levi. And therefore, he says, and therefore the Greeks told that one of the decrees of the Greeks was that you had to write on the horns of an ox that we have no part in the God of Israel. That's a really unusual thing. Why in the world would they want us to carve in the horns of an ox? Okay? Why in the horns of an ox would they want us to carve in? We don't have a part we don't have any connection to God. Why is that? Because what are they talking about? They are talking about what Shimon and Levi did in Shechem. And that akru shor. They uprooted the Gentiles there who are likened to an ox. So here we see unbelievable Torah, that there's a reason why that all the rabbis changed around one of the 13 verses that have to do with Shimon and Levi, because they understood that the whole battle of Shimon and Levi is a battle that it didn't stop after Shechem. It was our source. From the great sacrifice of Shimon and Levi, we merited to have the holiday of Hanukkah, and it's a continuation. It's a continuation fighting against the shore, which is, we said, is the zodiac sign of the Greeks. Now, very interesting, the Rav Yonatan Eibshitz writes in Yarot Dvash something very interesting. We know that there are 70 Jews that went down with Jacob to Egypt. 70. Each one of them is connected to a nation. Each one of the 70 children of Israel is connection to one of the 70 nations. Now, who is connected to Greece? Anybody have a guess? Kahat. Kahat is the father. Kahat is from the family. Family is the son of Levi. So once again, Yavan, his opposite, his competitor is Levi. Once again, we have Hanukkah, competitors, the Greeks against the Jews, competing who's the chosen people, who's going to take a back seat, who's leading the world, and who's not. It started all when Jacob went down to Egypt, 70 sons connected to 70 nations. Chazal bring down that Kahat was connected to the Greeks. And therefore, he writes, when Alexander Mokdon, when he saw Shimon HaTzadik, he bowed down. Why? Because, as we said, if the Greeks would know their place and they would use the Torah to improve themselves, either to convert or to observe the 7 Noach laws, then they could have done great things. Alexander Mokdon saw Shimon HaTzadik, he bowed down to them. He understood that was his job, to bow down, to be subservient to the Jewish people. Where did that come from? It came from the fact that Kahat is the antithesis of Greece, when they don't do what Hashem wants them to do with the Torah.
Where did the Rav learn this from Kahat? Where is this written?
This is from Rav Yonatan Eibshitz brings it down. He brings it down. The 70 nations are against the 17. Now check this out. The last thing that he says is the following. V'chen teida ki yudbet shvatim keneged yudbet chodashim. Every tribe represents a different month of the year. Reuven, who's the firstborn. He's connected to Tishrei. What is Tishrei? It's tshuva. Who's the first person that did tshuva? Reuven. Reuven did tremendous tshuva. That's why he wasn't. When the sons sold Joseph, he wasn't around because he was doing tshuva, as the Gemara says. So therefore, that's in the month. Reuven is connected to Tishrei and to doing repentance, and Shimon is connected to Cheshvan. Shimon is connected to Cheshvan. Very interesting. It says, we learned a couple of years ago that the third Beit HaMikdash will be built. We had a class on the connection between Rabbi Kahana and his death and not building the Beit HaMikdash as a punishment. We talked about some years ago. Very interesting. Shimon is connected to Cheshvan. Of course, Shimon and Levi, who are connected to Hanukkah. Shimon was one of the sons of the Chashmonaim. Shimon was one of the sons. They're connected to the temple, which of course is in the month of Cheshvan. Also, he writes, the month of Cheshvan is connected to Shimon because that's the month that the flood started. And we know that Shimon, he was involved when Hashem killed 24,000 Jews because of the fact that they were messing around with the Midianite women. Chazal tell us that all those 24,000 were from which tribe? from the tribe of Shimon. And when you sin by doing a sexual act which is connected to a liquid. And therefore, the fact is that in the time of the flood, the water was hot water, was boiling water, except for the water that was near the ark. All the other water was boiling water. Why? Because of the fact that the sin, we talked about it a while ago, talked about their sin was homosexuality activities, among other things. But therefore, when a person heats himself up, so therefore the liquid is heated up, and therefore, measure for measure, they were destroyed by this water, which was boiling water. So that's in the month, that's Shimon, who's connected to illicit sexual behavior. Next, Levi is connected. Levi is the spiritual force behind the month of, you got it, Kislev. So we see, very interesting, all those people that are against Shimon and Levi, and all those people that wave the anti-Shimon and Levi flags, we advise them also on Hanukkah, make sure to get your anti-Hanukkah, anti-Shimon and Levi. An unbelievable fact how Shimon and Levi, the whole reason why we have the celebration of Hanukkah is due to their merit.